Welcome back, everyone. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine. I am so excited to have Dr. Mohammad Nami with me. He's a medical doctor and an applied neuroscientist holding a Ph.D. in clinical cognitive neuroscience and clinical fellowship in sleep disorders. He is currently the director of brain cognition and behavior at the Department of Neuroscience at Shiraz University of Medical Sciences. He is also an associate alumnus and a member of the Harvard Alumni for mental health at Harvard Medical School, and he serves as the SBMT Brain Mapping Foundation scientist. It is such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so thrilled for the opportunity, and I hope that we're just going to run a fruitful discussion together. Looking forward to it. Let's go.
Absolutely. You have been a guest at my show before, and we were talking about the sleep disorders, but I am so excited to talk about the neuroscience approach to health and beyond that you have fostered and you wanted to share with our audience today.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, this has been a conceptual model that we've come up with as like a collective intelligence and the discussion within the consortium of thoughts. I mean, people or experts from different disciplines, when we're sitting together and talking about the implications of modern neuroscience, brain studies and insights, and how this can inform our mental health, number one, and number two, our quality of life. But not only mental health, but general health. Sounds odd in some ways, but that's reality. So we were just putting them together, all the insights and facts and figures, and we're discussing around a table how this can be conceptualized and how this can materialize into a form of a work model. And if we're going to put in the perspective the goals and aims and variables, or the definitives, how we're going to approach and use the mental health studies and neuroscience studies and just cross-connect that or stitch that to the idea of general health and social health. And by that, the prime of our journey started with developing a triangle, which are the three main pillars of the implications and the role of neuroscience insights into our health. So the first the first variable, the first item in the triangle was the general health, and the second was social health, and the third one was neurocognitive health. So if we could have just a model just take a look at a model at a glance, it all started with the triangle on the left top corner. Then we have this health concept, which is tied back to the general health, social health, neurocognitive health. And if we're focusing on the neurocognitive health, we definitely can put the concept of brain health into the perspective. And then we'll move on to talk about the brain health. So I know that you've been doing a marvelous job and tremendous experience you've had in the field of mental health. And you as an expert, Dr. Foojan, how you think till this point it makes sense to you, and we can cross-link general health, mental health to brain health. What's your position on that?
What has happened to me is knowing that when your mental health is not up to par, definitely your general health and social health and all relationships goes down the drain, because the brain is the decision maker, the organ that makes decisions, creates behaviors, and creates relatedness. And if the one organ that is not working functionally, it's going to affect every aspect of it. And unfortunately, I think that has been pushed aside for so many years. Part of it has been pushed aside, right, Dr. Nami, because we don't have effective measurement tools so far. And, for general health, we have all of these types of exams and tests that, physicians have the ability to say, I'm not even going to talk to you unless I have the MRI. I can't even talk to you unless I have the blood test. So it's like, I'm going to do some guessing game, but I don't have it. With mental disorders, it has been really tough for psychiatrists, psychologists who have been trying to just with a history taking from someone who comes into our office and only remembers and recollects part of the history that is with them, and due to that we need to assess and then see what we're going to do, what
Right.
we do. So developing a model that brings all of these aspects of the medical field together, and then together we could look at what is important. And you've talked before about how the physical health impacts the mental health, and how the mental health
Yeah,
impacts.
absolutely.
So as we kind of marry them together finally in this concept, we can look at a bigger picture of that, which is going to be very helpful.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah, sure. And that is absolutely very true. And what you indicated is really valid in a sense that when we talk about mental health, we got to be having a valid toolbox or some kind of measures, metrics to go for the evaluation of the mental health, what it really means by mental health. If we're talking about the motor or sensory aptitude. We're talking about our cognitive aptitude, our cognitive health, our memory, attention, learning, executive functions, and decision making, and planning, and problem solving, and so on and so forth. Our language. If we talk about some other pillars of our brain health, of our overall brain health or social health, we got to be having a general idea about the affective health and also our behavioral health. So this is like if we are conceptualizing into the next, geometry, next part of the model, which is very closely linked to the brain health, we will be having a pentagon here. And here in the pentagon, we have 5 main pillars: cognitive, behavioral, affective, motor, and sensory health. But for these kind of things, Dr. Foojan, we have metrics and measurements. So we have all the pen and paper and computer-based neurocognitive profiling assessment tools. We have the QEEG. We have for behavioral health, we have all the measures for the assessment of the neuropsychological and behavioral health and behavioral aptitude. For the affective health, we got some validated tests for the measurement of the affective health and productivity. Also for motor, we have measurements for the strength or processing speed of the motor system, and also sensory system. We can now measure the acuity of our acoustic system, of our olfaction, of our tactician, of our visual system. We can test the gustatory capacity of the person, how distinct we are in terms of recognizing the tastes. You know what I mean? So it's important, and we know that these are all coming from the main production line, and the production line stems from the brain. So we got the brain and we got the production line, and at the end of the production line we have the products. So the products of the healthy brain will be healthy cognitive status, healthy behavioral status, healthy affective control, healthy motor performance, and healthy sensory aptitude. So this is the second, part of the model. So we started from the triangle, the social health, the general health, and neurocognitive health. Then we're having the brain health. And brain health is closely stapled to the next part of the model, which is the integrative brain health. So for the integrative brain health, we got to be having this kind of 5 main pillars into perspective. Otherwise, we're just lost in the ocean. We have no GPS working out there. So we need to be exactly where we're going, and what definite substrate of brain health we're tapping into. But fortunately, today with the modern neuroscience, most of the time we have some measures and metrics, including like fMRI, a quantitative EEG, like optic brain mapping, and also we have some other measures, including the computer-based, media-rich computer-based cognitive platforms and stuff like that. And also we have all the measures to assess the most, precisely to assess the acuity of the sensory modalities. Okay, well, does that make sense to you in a way? Yep.
It really does. I think one of the conversation is that accessible to everyone, or is it only accessible to people who go to, for example, research universities, and they are in the huge medical facilities that do research. Part of it is that where is it that people, and I love it that you're talking about each one of these actually effective tools that are there. And maybe as you're going through your model, it really takes the medical community and the policymakers and all of that to bring
Exactly.
all of these
Exactly.
into an accessible concept where when you go to a psychiatrist or your internist, that they have the capacity and capability of giving you all of these tools and measure it in that perspective.
Right. Yeah, that is a very fundamental point you tapped into, and that should be the case, and there is a way to do it. So number one is that we just transform from the disconnect approach between the different disciplines in different specialties into a connect approach. So we got to be fostering the teamwork spirit, number one. So for example, I as a neuroscientist, the guy as a neurologist, as a psychiatrist, as a psychologist, as a cognitive therapist, or whoever, technologists, engineers, we need to work together as a team, right? And by that, we can develop a functional model. We can develop a platform. So this has been a question in many different settings. For example, in our country, in the Middle East, we've been doing such a thing, and we've developed this over the past 5-6 years, and we've been running the brain health assessment for the people at a screening level. So when you're talking about diagnostic tests, it means something, but the screening should set something before diagnosis. Diagnosis relates to, diseases, but screening refers to health. So we need to check your health. We need to check your vitality. So we go for all those measurements before any disease show up. So by this, we go for brain check. We go for brain health check. The same scenario we start to develop within the body of the Society for Brain Mapping and Therapeutics. And we're fortunately, as a consortium of thoughts, a team of like 40-something people, we got a paper recently published in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease, and it's called Neuroscreen. So if people or those who are, a fan of academic stuff, if they want to just punch in the word Neuroscreen in PubMed or in Google, they will come across the paper and they can go through it. So as far as I know, this has been transferred to the decision table and decision desk of the people at the administrative level in the US. Fortunately, this is going to be the case for some other countries. This is going to be the case for our setting. So the thing is that we need to provide something accurate, as you indicated correctly, accessible and at reasonable cost, and also it should be available for the people. This should not be so time consuming or challenging. This should not be harmful. This should not be painful. So the people should feel quite comfortable to go to a setting near to their home and just ask for brain check. As simple as that. Why we do it, Dr. Foojan? The third part of the model tells us about that. So we do the brain check within the context of neuroscience advances and also the novel technologies, because we got to go for prevention, number one, and prediction. What is the risk profile for you as a young lady to develop, for example, I don't know, God forbid, Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, when you're reaching the age of X, for example? What is the risk profile for that specific person who does not have a good brain health index, smokes quite a bit, he's addicted to alcohol, or is over drinking or drinking irresponsibly? He does not have a good control over anxiety and distressing worries. He does not sleep well. It does not follow a healthy diet, and he is not physically active. So everything is off the chart. So the person is not doing fine. What is the risk profile for that specific person with a family history of dementia, let's say, to develop Alzheimer's at the age of X? So these are the things that we got measures, we got predictive models in modern neuroscience to go for and tell the person, look, you are as a high risk profile person, and you need to do such and such and such to stay away from developing the high risk of this as you're moving down the road, as you're aging. So prediction is one thing. Prevention, if I understood that, okay, Mr. X, he's at high risk profile for development of Parkinson's disease or Alzheimer's disease or anxiety or depression or schizophrenia or PTSD or whatever, how I'm going to help that person to prevent this. And also predictive medicine, preventive medicine. The other side of the story is precision medicine or personalized medicine, and neuromedicine, which is personalized. And that's crucially important, because if I and you, we both have depression, let's say, okay, we go to a doctor, and the doctor, I mean, psychiatrist, for example, let's say neurologist or whoever, psychologist, and we tell them, yes, doc, I do have depression. I do not enjoy the life as I used to. And then we start to talk, and he listens to us and starts writing the medications, because he goes to the DSM, and the DSM is like the rule. Whatever DSM says is my decision point. And by that, I'm going to decide, okay, I made a guess because of the symptoms and what you told me, you got my major depressive disorder, and I got a bunch of medications on the table. I'm going to make another guess upon the previous guess to go for one of those medications, and I'm going to give you the medicine X. So you go for it. You're not feeling fine. I'm going to change the medication. You're still struggling. I'm going to increase the dose. You develop some side effects. I'm going to decrease the dose. So there is no objective measures. So everything goes by trial and error. But in personalized medicine, you do fMRI when indicated. Yep, go ahead.
I also think the preventive conversation that you're having is such a crucial concept, especially with addiction, because I think that when there is a prevention measurement tool, when you know someone has an addictive behavior, which it shows in so many other layers, when they go in and ask for, okay, I'm diagnosed with ADHD and give me, some sort of an amphetamine, or they go into a doctor and say, I have anxiety, and they give them Xanax and Valium, you understand that that person who already has a spectrum of an addictive behavior and an obsessive thinking, that it's so much the higher risk of that person becoming addicted to those pills. And then obviously those pills, as we've seen, shifts into some sort of either street drug, or shifts into the pain pills, which takes us to the opiate crisis that is around the world. So I really enjoy this, seeing that there can be an assessment and a preventive assessment where not only the physician has it, but also I think that the model that I have, and you've been privy to, the awareness integration, takes the agency of the person so that they can also start looking at, how are they thinking, feeling, behaving. So that kind of an awareness between the patient and themselves and the physicians, I think it brings it into a space where they can move forward for an appropriate treatment versus a trial and error treatment, being a guinea pig and moving forward. Yes.
And I'm a huge fan of that awareness integration memory and awareness integration theory, and I recommend everybody to just take a look at it. It's really insightful in terms of when we're in control, and when we know exactly where we're moving, where we're going, and we know that we're responsible for our decisions, we're going to be responsible for the consequences of our decisions. And by that, we need to take part in the process of diagnosis and the treatment of our problem or our diseases, if any, or illnesses, if any, because we're part of the circle. So if we see here in the third pentagon of the model, when we have the prediction, prevention, and diagnosis, which is supposed to be personalized, the next step is like follow-up, okay, and treatment and follow-up. So I'm a part of the treatment. I need to decide together with the doctor what diagnostic measures or what therapeutic decisions we need to take together. Of course, the doctor knows better because that's his specialty, but definitely I will play a role here. And then the follow-up, I need to show up. I need to get with the flow of all the tests and everything, and just show up again with a doctor or with my psychologist or whoever. So these are the things which refers to the P4 neuromedicine: predictive medicine, preventive neuromedicine, personalized neuromedicine, and participatory neuromedicine. And the third pentagon is cross-linked to the fourth pentagon. That the fourth pentagon is really dependent on the academy and how the scientists, how the very basic scientists or translational neuroscientists, how the clinical or cognitive neuromedicine experts, how the people as applied neuroscientists can add to the level of health and quality of life the people at different levels, not only disease people, not only people who have cognitive, behavioral, motor, sensory, or affective predicaments, but also the healthy population that they want to level up. They want to increase the level of their proficiency, the level of the performance. If you are a teacher, if you are a doctor, if you are a professional athlete, if you are an artist, if you're an actor, if you are a business person, a CEO of a great company, you got to optimize your brain productivity, your brain function. And these are all stemming in the advances in neuroscience research and advances, and how we're going to apply the neurotechnology for the betterment of the quality of life and health. And that's why we're talking about, I'm just trying to portray the link between neuroscience, mental health, general health, and well-being. And that's why the UN, United Nations, Sustainable Development Goal are kind of focused on neuroscience, or brain health, or brain science. And the UN SDG number 3, or Sustainable Development Goal number 3 of the UN, focuses on mental health and well-being. And that has got many things to do with policies. And the last part of the model that we're just, that circling that back to the first concept of health. So it's like just to close in the circuit does so many in common with the stakeholders. It has so many things in common with the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Us people, individuals, patients. Neuroscientists are playing a key role here. They are part of the game, and physicians and mental health providers are fundamental parts of the deal here. And we have biomedical teams, practitioners, professionals, caregivers, families as well, and the society, the awareness. Right as we're talking now, we are at the midst of the Brain Awareness Week. So that's the Global Awareness Initiative, where we're having seminars and talks and shows or whatever, to just open the eyes of the public to the significance of the gem between their ears. They got something in their skull, and that really matters, okay? And we need to, let the people understand the significance and the salience of the brain as the most important thing they have. And the policymakers, most of them, they are not aware of this kind of things. So if we ask them to, please, policymakers, listen to this podcast, watch this video, let's sit around the table, let's have lunch together, let's discuss. And by this, we together can convince the investors, not only policymakers, but investors and governing bodies, or the decision makers at the public level, at the governmental level, to just go and reallocate more budget, more time, more credit, more space to move for us. And by that, we're going to help the people love their brain more. We're going to help the people value and treasure their mental health more, and we're going to help them be more productive. And when they are productive, they are happy, we are happy, and the world is going to be happier. So that's all about the model. I hope that makes sense to whoever sees the model. And we're going to put that together. Maybe we're going to publish this within the mental health alumni at Harvard Medical School, or together with hopefully with SBMT. And if you're going to give us a hand for that, that would be awesome, because I always admire you as one of the field experts, and I've been always learning and getting insights from you. Thank you so much, Dr. Foojan, for the
Thank
opportunity to
you.
talk about the model.
Of course, I'll be honored to do that. I think that, as you were saying about all the stakeholders, I think every individual, they are a stakeholder about who they are and what they need for their body and how they can ask for it, whether they ask for it from their physicians, the clinicians, they ask for it from their policymakers, they ask for it from, the friends and families that they have that might be investors. What can investors do? They can fund a lot of the technology that neuroscientists are needing in order to create all of those preventive measures and tools and tests and all of those to be able to be mass produced in a way that it can be accessible. Again, like if every physician does not have the space nor the funding to bring a functional MRI into their office. But I'm sure that when they're funding to projects, that accessible tools such as that can be getting created in a technology format that it can actually be useful at any psychiatrist or a physician intern office, that it really, really helps this part of the assessment. So I think we're talking, your model takes a kind of like a holistic perspective of every single person's space where they can be useful and they can be a critical person and a tool in order to move this forward. There's also, like you said, I think is the agency of the person to be able to see what part they play in it. Sometimes patients feel like, I don't have any control and I'm powerless. And in your model, you're also saying how much they have power into this. One is that if they see an area of the areas of their life, they're not being successful, they're not being practical, and they're suffering, for them to take ownership of that and actually go and seek and ask to get the best treatment out there. So it starts from them, but it also starts from the scientists who are constantly looking and bringing the best out there to the public. And I think bringing all of them together, your model is a comprehensive model that kind of allows each part of the society to come together and sit together and create that. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you very much. It's our model, and we're going to develop that. We're going to take it to the next level. And we're going to, highlight the significance of these kind of different variables and bits and pieces when we're, conceptualizing them all together, forming a pragmatic model. This is going to make a change, and we're here to make a difference. Everybody is there to make a change for better, of course. So if we take all the variables and all the identifiers and the defining measures into account, then when we are going to come together, because one knows it all, so we need to come in company, we need to sit around a table and keep on discussing, keep on having conversations like this, or conferences like what we have in a matter of few days in the global meetings. And and also the Brain Awareness Week and everything. We got to publish the papers and let the people read them and give us the feedback. So please, whoever sees this or watches this later on, or who's going to, follow the podcast or whatever, give us some comments, help us understand your thoughts. So no one knows it all, and we certainly welcome your insights, your feedbacks, and put it together, and we will shine together. annually together, Dr. Foojan,
And
right?
we are also looking at another paper together that is about the opiate crisis, that is mainly
Exactly.
in the States and in other areas of the world. And I think that
Exactly.
same concept and the model really helps to look at the person's need, the family, because it really impacts the whole family. So how the family shows up and comes together. I think it's important to bring the health for everyone. So sometimes the family thinks that, especially if the person is no longer a young, under age of 18, above the age of 18, sometimes the family members think I have no other power to do anything, and yet they do. And if they get educated about how they can support their family members to go into the space of getting treatment and assessment and treatment, because if they don't, the whole family collapses. Because one person, the same way, I think, Dr. Nami, when one person gets diagnosed by cancer, it affects
Mm-hmm.
every single person in that family. You can
That
imagine
is
when
that is
one
absolutely right.
yeah, when one person is diagnosed with clinical depression or bipolar or Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or any of these diseases, who are mostly brain diseases, has the same.
And not to forget that, and not to forget the neurodevelopmental disorders like ADHD, autism, Fragile X syndrome, and verbal developmental delay, motor developmental delay. And many families are suffering quite a bit because their children are not doing fine. And this is also really important, because the sooner we get to do the job, the sooner we get involved, the better we can expect the outcome. Sorry to interrupt, but that was something that we also need to put it on the table as we're discussing about the physical, mental health issues of brain disorders. Yeah.
Yes. And what would your suggestions be to the family members? How could they support these prospects and moving forward? Would that be still how they ask or how they understand the diseases? One of the things that I usually request for family members is get educated, because if you're not educated about the disease of the person, a family member who's in your life, you're going to treat them like there's, there's a problem with them, but as if there's a problem with them, there's something wrong with them. It's not that.
Mm-hmm.
There is a disease, and the more that the family member understands a disease, not only they can deal with it in a different way, but they also don't make the patient a wrong. So they support the patient to move forward and get the treatment, versus create a lot more of a personality issues and power struggle dynamics between the family members and the patient, versus and the patient gets more traumatized, and the family members get more traumatized by the disease that is happening, versus everybody understanding it and coming together and working with it. What are your thoughts on that?
Exactly. And exactly, I would say yes, 100%. And the fact of the matter here is that when people have issues, have challenges with regards to the brain health, mental health, functionality, whatsoever in that realm, they got to get informed, as you indicated, but informed, not misinformed, not disinformed. So internet is all over the place. So the people can go and check on things which are not true, which are absolutely myths, and they will be detracted. And they will just increase their worry and the distressing worry by knowing something which is not backed up by the science. So when something is like a valid information, I would be educated with the valid information. So by that, I'm going to have the educated decisions. And then we need to come together. So let's have the focus groups. Let's have the community setting get-togethers. So let's have like virtual like teams or whatever. And then when we are more we are merrier and we're stronger. So we can pass on the torch and we can just, pass on the message to the people. Scientists will play a role. Key individuals like you, as you've been, broadcasting science and 5-star information all the time. So people can rely on people at your caliber, get in touch with you, and then you will be part of their community. You help them to get their message crossed. To cross to what? To cross to whom? Cross to policymakers, decision makers, universities. I mean, fourth generation academies. And by that, the governors, the investors, those people who value the importance of the thing, then they will say, yeah, let's decide quite differently about this. Let's help them out. And by this, they are going to have the support groups and help the people get to know advisors, consultants, and those like coaches, those people who help them to conquer the worry that they have as a caregiver or as a person who is struggling with this. It's not only the mental predicament, it's the financial burden, it's the social burden, it is this stigma, as you pointed out. So it's like a multifaceted different dimensions that we need to be aware of. And so my suggestion as a passionate and a restless learner in neuroscience is, and you are a great psychologist, so we too are part of the team, and we have other colleagues and associates from different perspectives in brain sciences. So when we come together, as already we're doing, when we publish papers, when we're writing books, when we're having like media, audiovisual, products like this, and people will get unlimited access to this for life. And the people perhaps, if they need it, I don't know if how interesting this might be for them, but there are some videos or podcasts that I personally can listen to that like for times. All right. So because every single time that I listen to them in more depth, I will get some more information and insight from that. So these are the resources that we have. And the most important resource is behind my eyeglasses, my brain. So I need to use the best of my brain, and I need to share my thoughts, my values, my needs, my desires, my concerns with my peers. And as a support group, a focus group, we can make an impact. Absolutely. Otherwise, we're going to just remain in silence, and nothing going to change for better.
Absolutely,
right?
It's been a
Let's do it.
Pleasure to talk to you. I always learn so much from you. It is always a pleasure to have you. You have a carte blanche to be on my show every week.
Thank you. You know what? Awesome. You know what? I'm telling you a truth. Pleasure is all mine, and that is what I wanted to tell you. Number one. And number two is that it's always a very fantastic opportunity not to discuss about these kind of things, but to help other people, just to raise eyebrows at the people, to get the matter on the spot, and just to help them understand, well, look, my friends, neuroscience is not about rats. Neuroscience is not about zebrafish only. Neuroscience is not about stem cell, which is going to be there in the laboratory and not for the health of the people. Neuroscience is going to serve us as human beings. Neuroscience is going to help us to have a better life, a quality of life, if you will. And neuroscience is to help us to have a health in a more inclusive and generalized concept. And that's why neuroscience is something which makes my heart sing.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a pleasure to have you on our show. And
thank you so much.
Where can people find you, Dr. Nami?
Well, I normally get connected with people, and we have social interaction in terms of our professional, impacts that we can have bi-directionally, and on LinkedIn, and also I appear on Instagram. I don't have an active Facebook, but they can also Google my name, and they can find my email if they want to reach out for any collaboration or something that I can be of assistance for. I would be more than happy to. And the more, the better, definitely.
Beautiful. Dr. Nami, everyone, it's been a pleasure to have you.